Hey guys, it's Kevin here, and I'm out for a walk with my daughter. She's sick. Everyone in the family is sick right now, aside from me. So right now my wife and my son are sleeping at home, taking a nap in the afternoon. And the only way to get my daughter to sleep is to get her in the stroller and get her moving. Motion makes her sleep. So, you know. So this is a video response, not a video response, it's a response to a question, answering a question asked me by Jeorge initially. And then ironically enough, today I'm listening to the Molly's Place podcast where him and Dave are talking about why they came to Japan, or the stories of how they came to Japan. And that's what George asked me over on Facebook, my Facebook page, what made me want to go to Japan. Very simple. A woman. Yeah, so there you go. That's it for the video. We're finished. Thank you for watching. And no, I'll explain a little bit more. So let's see. My trip to Japan is a very kind of complicated one. I had never planned to come to Japan. I never had really an interest in Japan. I didn't have yellow fever, so to speak, as they say. I was never really into Asian girls when I was in my teens or 20s. I mean, good-looking girl's a good-looking girl. Maybe just because where I grew up, there wasn't a lot of racial diversity. Let's just say that. So what happened with me is I went to kind of follow the path. I went through school, went through high school, went to university, got a 4-year Bachelor of Arts degree. Played music throughout school. Played in indie bands as a drummer. Did some singing. Played in Celtic bands, playing the bowron, Irish hand drum, tin whistles, singing, performing. My senior year of university, I did an audition for a dinner theater show where you had to play music, sing, act, do improv comedy, all that stuff. Did an audition, landed a job, a summer job, doing dinner theater in Prince Edward Island. Went there, trained for 3 weeks. And then for the summer, I lived with a cast and did theater, and it was just a blast. And I continued doing that for about a year and a half after I finished my arts degree. Realize no future in that, really, aside from kind of low-paid work. So I went back to school. I was during the internet bubble, the late 90s, and I went to New Brunswick Community College, and I got a diploma, a 2-year diploma. That'd be the equivalent of what Americans call an associate's degree in electronic game design. And my area of focus was 3D graphics, and I was a 3D Max specialist, 3D Studio Max. I also did a fair amount of Lightwave work, but at the time Lightwave 3D was more for television. I wanted to get into the game industry. At the time, most games were done in 3D Studio Max. So I did that for 2 years, and I really got into it, and I was pretty good at it, I got to admit. I really took to it like a duck to water. I loved it, I lived it, I ate it, I breathed it. I had a good portfolio, a good demo reel, and I was hired by a company, a game design company, before I even finished my diploma. And that's what I did. I left when I finished school. I worked in the game development industry in Canada. I worked as a 3D modeler, a junior artist, mostly doing 2D games. So this is, I think this is like 2000, 2001. I was making these kind of like 2D side stroller games for the most part. And then I did work on one 3D project, a racing game. But I had wanderlust, and I decided that I wanted to travel. Decided to go to South Korea for 1 year. 1 year turned into 5. After 3 years teaching in Korea, I decided that I really liked teaching. So I decided I wanted to become a teacher in Canada. And I decided, since my family had all then moved to the province of Ontario from Nova Scotia, I would become an Ontario teacher. So I applied to 7 different programs at 7 universities in Ontario. Well, so what I did basically is I saved for my last 2 years in Korea. I had a goal. I wanted to go to teacher's college, as they call it. So, and get my Bachelor of Education. I had my Bachelor of Arts, time to get my Bachelor of Education. So I saved, worked really hard for 2 years, saved up more than enough money. When the time came, I applied to 7 universities. I was accepted into 6 out of the 7. I chose the University of Ottawa because it was closer to my family. But in that final year, in Korea, I met a Japanese woman who is now my wife. And she was working in Korea as a Japanese language teacher. She was working at a big hagwon where they had Chinese courses, English courses, And I met her, we fell in love, and we got engaged. Her contract in Korea finished before mine. She left a few months before me. Then I finished mine. I went to Japan and spent some time with her. Then I went to Canada to go to university, back to school. But I'd made enough money, I'd saved enough money that I could live very comfortably for my time in school. She came over to Canada and lived with me, and we lived together for quite some time. And I promised her that once I finished my degree and finished all my student teaching and whatnot in Canada at elementary schools, I would come to live in Japan. So, coming on the end of the completion of my university degree, I applied for a job at an international school, and I got the job teaching kindergarten, which is good because I was a kindergarten through grade 6 licensed teacher, still am, in Canada. That's all my training is doing that. And yes, I am walking in circles right now, guys. I've got a baby sleeping here. The moment the stroller stops, she wakes up. So I came to Japan, and my wife had set everything up, an apartment for us, all that stuff. I came here, I got a 1-year contract. Normally schools you'll only get a 1-year contract from immigration when you first start. And schools will normally only give you a 1-year contract because they don't trust you, because they don't really know who you are. Are you going to be a competent employee or this or that? So I had my 1-year contract, 1-year visa. I really enjoyed it here. We got married here in Japan. My family came over from Canada. That was 6 years ago. Since then, now the plan was to always head back to the province of Ontario and become a teacher in Ontario, but the job situation in Ontario was bleak when I left, and it's still bleak now. So I worked at the same school for 5 years. I left because I wanted to change. I attempted to get a government job back in Canada, but that didn't work out so well. That was kind of part of the plan. And I decided the best way to get back home, because the plan is, there's a lot more potential to make a lot more money back in Canada than here, as a foreigner here, as a Canadian in Canada, a lot more opportunities, to start a business or this or that. So I decided I needed a master's, and a master's backup plan. If I have a master's and if I decide to stay in Japan, I can always teach at a university. But the main plan, and I've been accepted into a master's program, I start in September, a Master's of Education and Information Technology, is I plan on going back to Canada and becoming a technology consultant for school boards or to work in the private education technology industry, educational software development, courseware development. That's the long-term plan now, so that's what I'll be working towards. But that's how I came to Japan, and now here I am. I'm still working at an international school. I took a year off where I worked in a Japanese school as an assistant language teacher. That was a very interesting experience. So I start my program in September. It's a 2-year program, my master's, and when that's done, probably head back to Canada, which is the plan now, but never say never. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up becoming a university instructor here. Don't know. All right, guys, so there you go, George. Hope that answered your question, and take care, and check out the links below.